Hello, this is Pixie doing another video. Just looking at the sunset. Well, it's dusk now, so it may get dark soon. So, my thoughts are about the future technology, biohacks, and the kind of ones that we're using on animals. So, there's a lot of red tape around doing tests and experiments on humans, but not on animals. And so we already have things like microchips put into animals, and there's a desperate desire to have cyborgs, because technology that needs maintaining and surgery to implant it, and costs to run it, and money spent on researching it, can all generate money for banks and create people that are servants to the technology. They're slaver devices, basically. So, you know, if you have to connect your brain up to a server, then you're reliant on doing certain things. They wanted technology, I think, in humans, so they could download stuff. So there's some technology that they're looking at, I know that I'm aware of, with it's basically when you've got spyware on animals. So it's like body cams and mics. So if I moved into an area where there was a lot of crime activity, maybe my next door neighbour's a major drug dealer or something, fit a cat up with a kind of listening device in its collar, and then let it roam. GPS tracker built into it, and just collect data, basically scoop up data. And you could have something where you implanted the drug dealer's cat or dog, and they had them chipped, and then they had an additional chip put in there for communication, you know, like something that's connected to the ear canal, and I mean, it'd be more difficult visual aid on an animal that's actually somebody's pet. But as a listening device, or there's other things it could do. It could basically collect Wi-Fi data and transmit that back into the internet. So it's just a general bug device, isn't it? So there's these are optionals. There's also DARPA experiments, and it's like Planet Robotnik. You know Robotnik from Sonic the Hedgehog? If you recall, he would do cybernetic experiments but use animals, and they would use part of the animals as a driving system for his machines, and they were the slaver devices for his technology, basically. So what it would have is it would be running off the cortisol responses and the primal reactions from the chemicals, because the human brain's very quickly at processing things. So the hormone releases in the brain would be the triggers for the machine to respond, because it sees things in black and white and binary, but it allows an emotional response. So if it's threatened, a cortisol response or adrenaline, and even if it didn't have a heart, there'd still be some signals going down there. Even if it had like an artificial heart, it's some system. You know, you might even need a full brain to do it, basically. But then if you did, there's command sequences in the brain that could be used. Neuro pathways and patterns that you could scan the brain, and basically, if it reacts to this stimuli, the computer knows. So, you know, you could have, for instance, a dog could tell difference between, you could have it trained for the smell, and the computer start monitoring the brain and getting information. But it wouldn't have to necessarily wire into it. it could basically have a kind of MRI scanner technology built into it. It just needs to have a neuro map of the dog's brain, and then when certain signals go off, it will use that information to deal with it. So recall response, and then the computer can start scanning for what it is. The dog's having a different response to the stimulus. Like it's come across food, or it's come in contact with another dog, or something like that. Or it's been trained to respond to certain units of his own people, or reacting towards drugs or something. You know, the excitement is found in. It may send, say for instance, it finds a drug where it's trained to track down money or something. Then they can act upon that. Well, there's other things that could be doing. Reverse hack of that is you could send it into threat mode, and if the machine's attacking, according to how the animal's responding, if it's winning or not. And if it's losing, it can increase its ferocity. So you've got these machines, for instance, when a machine's attack these DARPA machines, must have seen that they said they're going to carry weapons. When they are actually attacked, like kicked, the perception of an animal's trapped in the machine is you've kicked me. In the same way, the car, I perceive it as a part of my body, because it's wired into my mental responses. So it can basically sort of react according to how it sees the threat. There might be some other triggers as well, like trauma triggers. Might be quite hard, but then there's a machine that can take over. I mean, all it's got to do is tell the machine that's a threat, that's a friendly target, I'm in trouble, you know, it's happy, excited, and other things. Like if it finds food, the machine could just basically, it could just, as it tries to eat it, just collect the food and process it, and then feed the brain with it, I guess. So there is a way it could survive, or just collect that whatever it's got and then bring it back. You'd have like a stomach, it'd just be a container to collect something. It's very difficult to know how a kind of ghost in a machine would work. And if you watch the movie, then you understand that kind of reference. I mean, sometimes it creates levels of insanity, because phantom body, phantom limbs, but equally the phantom responses can also be interpreted as movement. So if it's very clever, it thinks about moving, the body starts to move, and then the mind doesn't see the difference. It's a different neural network. So I want to go somewhere, I start projecting what I want to do, and then I start amping up electrical activity in certain areas of my brain. If you separate them kind of nerve endings, you can figure out what to go forward. Or if it's not quite calibrated, the brain will start calibrating itself, as it will start rewiring itself, so it realises like forward and backwards, and if it does this response, it gets this response. So there's a way to sort of wire it up. It just needs to be able to sense and relay electrical information. You could use some method of brain training as well, whereby if the animal's brain responds positive to some stimuli, you could use that image, then you can show another image. Or if it has a negative response, you could show the image of the person that it's got a response, like a target, and then you keep using that image response mechanism, and so it becomes, you know, basically the cortisol levels go through the roof when it comes across the target, then it's going to become more responsive in attacking that target. And they've used other technology like insects as well, bugs and things. So it just be this creepy universe of biotech. There was some lot of lower commercial technology. I mentioned about spy tech and animals. You could have a cat with a receiver on it, or voice command on it. You can have it as a body cam on it, and then you could just link it up to your iPhone, like a bit like the doorbells. And then you just have to recharge it. But there's also wireless technology for that. When the cat lays down and sleeps in its bed, you just put the wireless charger next to it. Not as the animal's fully integrated, so its pets at home, they become a part of the home. And you can have drone tech in it as well. So it's a helicopter, it's basically a helicopter cat really, it'll fly. And the cats usually, they always go feet down, so it wouldn't interfere with the flying device. It might have an issue when it's on the ground though, I might try to scratch it off or whack it off with something. Quite ingenious cats. But a cat won't be asleep until his blades start up on it. But then after a while it'll get trained. I mean, you pick up a cat, it doesn't, and you stroke it, it doesn't react to it. It calms it down. So if you have a way to send, and they purr, so if you send a slight vibration that's kind of like associated with a purr, you relax the animal, and then you can basically mobilise it into transit. And then before they used cats as well with bombs. So there's things you could have an explosive device built into a cat if you wanted to. It'd be quite gross. Have the cat trained to go towards a target of some kind, of a smell or whatever, you know, rub up against it and just blow it up. They use cats for that and they put little mines on them. They're possibly heavy. The idea is that when this was in Russia, I think, is that the cat would seek shelter and go underneath the vehicle, and then it would just detonate under the vehicle. The idea, or a warmth, they go towards warm things like warm engines and stuff, and they blow out. But they did things like this with dolphins, weaponised dolphins before. I think with this basically the technology the way it is now, go a lot further than that. So I've seen this potentially as spiritually. I've seen this visions of technology being used, and possibly integrating different type of physical technology in the bodies of an animal. Like if you took a cat and you ended up putting wheels on it like it was a car, and then what happened is the cat would think to use its leg and try to use it, and it would activate one of the wheels, and then it'd think, oh, I can't move, it's making it go spin round in a circle. But eventually it would retrain its brain to respond in certain ways. The cat wouldn't be so fussy or worry about it anymore. Past a certain point, you just accept it. I mean, it might suffer from some level of depression, I don't know. Might have to give the cat some type of drug to keep it happy all the time. Should be pretty strange, pretty freaky. It's a bit like one of the old RoboCop movies. There's something called Kane, I think. It's like a drug dealer, and he was basically sent. He was going to sabotage. He was going to take out RoboCop and sabotage the upper side of the company. And but he was just a criminal drug dealer, homicidal. And so he has these different compulsives in there, and the drugs as well. You just get off on them to a large dosage. So the feeder was meant to be used for feeding him baby food or whatever into his body and keep his brain going. And they said he just put a load of massive massive load of drugs into his brain. Which is all creepy stuff. But yeah, if you integrate it with sort of Apple technology and other things, people love it. And then you have all sorts of stuff. So you can track your cat's movements, or your dog. You could find your dog basically. You could have things where it gives sounds or signals, like your voice. You know, please tell them to go home or whatever. Confuse a dog, you can communicate with your dog. And you know, react differently. But if it deals with commands, like if you had it, if you said attack, and then you sort of using a body cam, it's walking around like a security dog, you know, or sit, good boy, or you say home, and you set your heads back home. You could have all sorts of strange commands. Or you could have recon and search and rescue missions. And you could have other technology, like this body cam could see in infrared. So yeah, lots of stuff. And then it opens the gateway to sort of human experimentation. But very limited. They can only play around with dead things on people at the moment. There's some other weird things I saw. You know, there's about recycling humans into corn, basically a type of corn. So the way to sort of turn humans with liquid feed and then feed them to a bacteria that would grow on a human that would turn into corn. It's not something I'd want to really desire to have done. But basically you could run this in the background, and just when you go to pick up your urns from a cremation, there'll just be a bunch of ash that's already been pre-created from something else. So it's just bio recycling, and then you feed the corn onto the humans, or it turns into animal feed, or whatever the chain is. It's just because it's the waste of humans' life, their body after death. You know, the big ritual, burying them in a bit of land, they got to stay there for about 70 years, and they dig up the land, and then they recycle, turf it over. Or if they just cremate it, just paying for the cremation, having the urn, if you just scatter the ashes, having a space of land, renting it out for however long you feel you need before you can get over the grief of losing that person. So it's all quite creepy stuff really. But there's industry, everything's driven by industry, everything's driven by money, control. So whatever you do outside of that box of industry is freedom, and it's something you should always practice, like reading, writing, anything that you can do with yourself as creative energy. It's something that somebody else can't own, basically. Unless you choose to sell it to them, then that's a different story. Anyway, it's Big signing off, and speak to you soon.